website where you can order these from that had a preview of the book, and it was lesson one, so I was able to look at lesson one online. I didn't get to write in it or write my notes out like how I normally do, so a lot of it will kind of flow from just what I have remembered in looking over this lesson. So we'll get started. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse number 12. Ephesians 6. Well, actually, let's read 10 through 12. Let's just go ahead and read 10 through 12.
I may be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against the flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places.
All right, thank you. More. Brother Isaac, I'm calling. What does your version read? Verse number 12.
For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms.
So I think you said your version read the word struggle too, right? Yours read struggle. Anybody else's version have a different word?
In verse 12,
In verse 12.
it says wrestle.
Wrestle. Wrestle. Right. Wrestle. Anybody ever watch wrestling growing up? WCW, WWE, WWF. My favorite wrestler was the Stein. My favorite wrestlers were the Steiner brothers. Y'all remember the Steiner brothers? One of them was kind of like short and stocky and crazy. And the other one was my favorites by far. They would call them tag team wrestling, right? So it'd be 2 against 2, or sometimes it'd be 6 men, or it'd be 3 against 3. It'd be 2 in the ring wrestling with each other, and when one got to where they had an opportunity to tag out, whether they were too tired or whether they were getting beat up or whatever, they would get to their corner and tag the other one in. And then the other one would come in and either finish the job or kind of reset the situation, and it started the conflict all over. Sometimes I look at our fight with the devil, and a lot of times we try to go one-on-one, and then we end up having to tag out, right? We end up struggling in a conflict or in a battle that has worn us out and worn us down, and it takes everything in our power to get to the ropes to tag Jesus in, right? Thank God that it's not a one-on-one fight. Thank God that we have the option to tag out. We also have the option to not fight in the first place. We also have to have an understanding of what and who we're up against, and an understanding to know what we have on our side. So we got this word wrestle, we got this word struggle, we got this word tactics, we got this word conflict, tit for tat conflict with our enemy, our adversary. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's not something to minimize. Can you minimize any level of attack that the devil is throwing at you? Can you say, "Oh, that's nothing"? Or I can. That ain't no thing. I can handle that. Or is it all a big deal? Like, is it all something that's serious, right? You don't. It's kind of like in sports, right? They tell you not to do underestimate your opponent. I know in football, this happens, right? You got a big game 2 weeks away, and you got a cupcake on your schedule the week before. And you looking ahead, what happens? You get beat by the cupcake, and then you really get beat by the team you're playing the next week, right? So it creates a double situation for us. How many times have we, in our conflict with the devil, we lost sight of the day-to-day battles? We got comfortable in how we are, got comfortable in how we operate, we got comfortable in how we behave, we got comfortable in how we think and how we process. Even though those ways are not in line with God's ways, and we think we're okay because we're focused on the big battles, and we losing all the little daily battles. We can't handle when somebody gossip about us. We can't handle when somebody alarms us. But we can handle the big stuff, right? We can handle death well, but we don't handle forgiveness well. We handle sickness well, but we don't handle controlling our tongue well, right? So it's all of the things where every battle is important, and we have to have a focus and a level of attention to everything that the devil is trying to throw at us, and we'll never ever have room to take him lightly, because he's never taken us lightly. He's never looking past the battle. He gets up. I think it's in Proverbs or Psalms where it talks about, like, they wake up ready for it. They wake up, the devil waking up every day choosing violence, right? He's waking up every day thinking about figuring out a way to, hey, how can I get him today? Right? So being aware of that is going to make all the difference. Conflict's been a part of man's history since when? Since the beginning, right? It's something that we won't ever get away from. There's nothing new under the sun, right? We look back biblically. It says that these conflicts were directed by God as punishment for those persecuting his people or for exercising evil. Look at the first recorded conflict in Genesis 14, 1 through 20. Lot was taken captive and was rescued by Abram. Although today we don't have a record of such physical conflicts in the New Testament, we continue to wage war, a spiritual war that involves rescuing souls from Satan's influence. And sometimes it's our very own soul that needs to be rescued. So, commentator talks about this warfare being asymmetrical. Somebody give me their own definition of what asymmetrical is. Isaiah, have you heard that word in school? Monte, have you heard that word in school? You ever heard the word symmetrical? Asymmetrical means what? They ain't alike, right? Where you're looking at both sides and you're seeing the same thing on both sides, right? Like football, basketball, like it's 5 on 5, 11 on 11. But in this fight with the devil, like it's not going to be something that you can look at and see what is equal on both sides. It's not going to be something where there's equal strength on both sides or equal numbers on both sides. So anybody else have another way to define or another way to look at our conflict or our battle with the devil as far as it being asymmetrical or not the same on both sides?
I don't recall who said this, but there was a preacher, I can't remember who it was, but he made this statement, and it has always stuck with me. He said that if it's you and me one-on-one against the devil, that's
sides, like men, men who think they can do it. They've strategized and talked about waves on, say, oh, we'll just attack him in waves, right? And they say we're gonna have some losses, right? We're gonna have some casualties, but at the end of the day, I think 100 men, if we strategize the right way, we can beat them, right? But we do know this for sure, as my daddy mentioned, you against a gorilla, you ain't gonna win, right? One-on-one, you against a gorilla, you're gonna lose. So we have to find a way to make the asymmetrical piece of this battle in our favor. Because if it is just me against the devil, it's too big of a difference. Like, it's asymmetrical and it favors the devil, right? It's me versus a gorilla. I want to be able to flip it to where if there are major differences between my side and the devil's side, I want the advantage to be on my side. I want to have the 100 men going up against the gorilla. I want to have maybe the 200 men. Like, I want to shift the balance. I want to shift the advantage to me, because if it's just me against the devil, I have zero advantage. But if you get me and the Holy Spirit and God, then I can talk noise and fight, right? I got backup, right? It's one thing to have no brothers and no cousins at school with you, and you go to school and you talking noise to everybody. It's another thing if you a freshman, but you got a brother that's a senior and a brother that's this, and you got cousins all around, and then you can talk your talk and you can be a certain kind of way, because the battle is shifted in your favor. But if it's just you against everybody that you're talking crazy to, then that's not a battle that's in your favor. So we want to shift it to where we got the power when it comes to us fighting against the devil. So it would be like a 6-man school playing against an 11-man school. That you know you're not going to win that. You're not going to be, the outcome is not going to be favorable for you. So if you know that you are going to have to engage in conflict with the devil, we need to stay fully equipped. That's why we need to have an armor. That's why we need to have God on our side, because that always is going to shift the balance of power to our favor. And then we can engage in battle. Then we can have the conflict. Then we can go and have the understanding of who and what we're really fighting. Because I think a lot of times we look at it, it says our battle is not with flesh and blood. And we get a little confidence in us because we're looking at it on the human side, and we say, well, I can take you. I'm smarter than you. I'm bigger than you. I'm faster than you. My hands are better than your hands. And not realizing that none of that physical stuff matters if it's a fight against principalities and powers, right? Your physical strength means nothing, right? Because you can win the fight and lose. And according to God, you lost, right? So equipping or balancing, putting the balance of power on our side, then that's when we can start to look at, okay, now who am I really fighting? Let me stack my deck, and then now let me evaluate who I'm fighting, right? And what I'm up against. I think a lot of times we'll determine who we're fighting before we get the power on our side, before we get that's like talking noise when you ain't sure you got any backup, right? You get your backup, and then you say, okay, who wants some, right? You say, who wants something after that? So let's look at the workout. Somebody read page 6 from the workout, down to the end where it says the result on page 7. Somebody read from the workout all the way to the result.
Satan rarely attacks us directly. Instead, he uses a variety of tactics working through individuals under his influence to attack us on multiple levels. experience through applying Jesus' teachings. We experience spiritual maturity through the application of the fruit of the Spirit. If we submit to Satan, we experience spiritual deficiency through the attacks of a sinful nature.
And go ahead and read the result too. I'm sorry.
The result, Jesus offers us a freedom from slavery of sin and grants us eternal salvation. Satan offers enslavement to sin and eternal punishment.
Out of so let's go back up to the top of the workout where it says the variety of tactics the devil uses. I kind of want to just poll the audience, poll the crowd real fast. So out of those three, so the first one, keep one from becoming a Christian. Second one, cause someone who has obeyed the gospel to weaken or lose his or her faith. And then the third, used in conjunction with the second, is to lessen a Christian's effectiveness in service for the master. Which one of those three do you resonate most with? Second. Second. Anybody else? Second. Third one for me. Anybody else? All the above, yeah. So I look at that third one, and then like the commentator said, it is in conjunction with the second. Well, before I tell the people who said number two, y'all want to elaborate a little more on why number two was your option?
For me, it's because it's easy to, I struggle with keeping remaining faithful or exercising my faith with something when an obstacle, when I'm faced with an obstacle or when something bad happens, like I get knocked off my faith easily. Not easily, but yeah, easily.
Do we see the difference in number two and number three? What's the difference between those two?
Now, I think when Satan kind of gets you in your face, faith weakens, it can mess up your effectiveness because other people are seeing you, or if they see it, you know what I mean? Like if your loss of faith causes outward sin, then that makes you less effective. Serving humans, that's just how humans are. They're just like, oh, you're not doing right, so that's an excuse for me not to do right, So they do go hand in hand, but I feel like the first, for me, like William was saying, just if you feeling like you're on a course and then something happens and it shakes you.
So one, anybody else before I make my comment? One is short term. Other one has more of a long term flavor to it. Y'all, go
I
ahead.
think number three might always be with us if we're not careful. Satan try to cause you to do something to lessen your effectiveness of doing what you're commanded to do. Get up and preach a lesson on different things, and then he might put you to the test of that afternoon and see how you're going to live up to what you already just said. That happens. That can happen. It happens. Be on the lookout for it. That's what he does.
We know Satan as a deceiver, right? And subtle at times, right? And he's definitely be more overt at times. But number three is dangerous because you can be there and not know you're there, right? You can be thinking that everything is fine, and it's a place where this long-term stuff, you get used to the limp, right? compensate for the lack of sight or lack of this or that, and we never address that. But whether we believe it or not, we are less effective because we got something that is keeping us from doing what we used to be able to do, right? And so we overlook it on one hand, and then we get used to it, and we minimize it, or we learn to just, we want God and people to accept us the way we are. We want us to be accepted in our stage where we are less effective. Instead of working on it, we're looking for somebody to accept it and excuse our behavior, but at the same time is wearing the church down. And you don't even know you're wearing the church down because you done adjusted your life to it. And the devil is just sitting back saying, yeah, you good. I mean, keep doing what you're doing, brother. And how many of y'all know, even in the church, we have enablers, right? If you, it's kind of like a situation at work where if you short-staffed and you looking to hire somebody, sometimes you're just looking for a warm body to come in and just like, we just need somebody, right? Sometimes in smaller congregations, a lot of times that's where the enabling can come in because we're going to put up with because we don't want to lose you. And we're going to overlook and ignore you functioning at a level of less effectiveness, or you're functioning at a level of you're under your potential, or you're not serving and working in the church the way God wants you to work, or the way the church needs you to function, right? And everybody becomes used to it. And when everybody becomes used to it, then the overall church becomes what? Less effective. And the devil's just sitting back having a good old time because you got an underperforming situation. You got a church that's not as effective as it used to be because you got Christian folk who've gotten comfortable in being what? Less effective. That's why number 3 is, because I've been there, right? Not long ago. Still in a little struggle with, like, so it's one that we have to be aware of what the devil is trying to do. And I'm glad the commentator even put number 3 in there because we overlook it sometimes. And it causes us to have to really look within and say, okay, which one am I really? Which one really don't I have time? Why don't I have time carved out in my day for the word when I have time for everything else? So that's number one indicator. Anybody else offer some feedback to the question?
Just like First Timothy,
Second Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11.
tell myself is, try to like get into the habit of like evaluating yourself. Try being honest with yourself, and when you find yourself not, giving in and not having a strong faith, or
say about whatever we're going through.
That's right.
We just got to take the time to look and see what the word says. Just don't go from memory what we've heard, but go and see what it says, so we'll know what it actually says. That will strengthen us. The word will keep us from sinning if we'll just stay in it.
So it's just like in our series over holiness, like the difference between what God wants you to do and what Satan wants you to do, it's like night and day. Like there's nothing to compare. It's all contrast. There ain't a comparison, right? The things of God are going to always contrast the things of the devil. So when we're looking at this desire motivation method, what we're experiencing in the result, they're going down two different paths. What God wants for us, what God desires for us, is totally different than what the devil desires for us. What God desires to do in our lives is totally different than what the devil desires to do. Jesus teaches us to love and is full of love. The devil is full of hate. I mean, don't we understand that? Like there are no similarities between the two. None, right? Let's make that clear. Like there is God's way and the devil's way, and they are as far apart from each other as things will ever be. Devil, he's not, God ain't right here with his standard, and the devil is just like a close second. Like he's not anywhere near. Sometimes we create a standard of living for ourselves that we think is right here. But if it ain't God's standard of living, then it may as well be all the way over here. Right? There's no standard that can be close to God's way. Either it is or it ain't. And if it ain't, then it ain't even close. We're not talking about photo finish. We're talking about you getting lapped 3-4 times. Like it ain't anything close. So Paul tells us, it says that we face an invisible enemy with real life felt consequences, right? Real life felt effects of this invisible enemy. Because the enemy may be invisible, but he gets into things that are visible. Remember, he got into the beast he got into the serpent with Adam and Eve. He got into Judas, right? So the devil can make himself visible. Sometimes he makes himself visible in subtle ways. Sometimes he makes himself visible in somebody you can't stand. He'll make himself visible in somebody you love the mess out of, right?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just looking at people, right? So, anybody ever had experienced the real life effects of this invisible enemy? Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if his effects were invisible like he was? Right? That's where the danger comes in, because we want to try to make those effects invisible or non-existent without fighting the invisible enemy. So we leaving jobs, cutting people off, doing all of these things with people, trying to make the visible enemy invisible. But we're not ever doing anything about this. We're gonna be doing this for the rest of our lives. We're gonna spend all of our lives, all of our days cutting folk off, fighting the enemy we can see. It's not the person. It's the devil who got in the person, right? And getting a new job ain't gonna fix that. The devil ain't gonna say, well, I ain't gonna follow her to the prison. I will leave alone. There's some crazy folk in the prison. The devil say, hey, that's right where I need to be. It's right. It's right. You see what I'm saying? It ain't. It's the invisible enemy that we have to shift our focus to, shift our attention to. So, but we do know the devil can be so overt, right, to where it ain't no doubt that that's the devil, right? God gave Satan power to test Job, right? He gave him power to test Job. sometimes they so subtle with it because they start out like so nice and so sweet, and they present it one way to you. He presents himself as this nice, sweet person that you can talk to, that you can trust. That's how you get in, right? Sometimes the devil, his aim ain't to get in, right? His first aim sometimes is, I'm going to jump right on your nerves, right? But sometimes he'll sweet talk you, and then 2 years later, he start getting on your nerves, right? So it's one of them things where always being aware. Like this is not, we don't have a practice. It's all live game experiences, right? You ain't got time to be practicing on when you get into a fight with the devil, because he ain't practicing. The devil is doing live game drills. You ever seen somebody transition from basketball or football to basketball, or even from basketball to track? Like, it's a totally different shape you got to be in, right? And the only thing that's going to get you in the shape is running you're not going to get in track shape doing football drills, right? You're just not. The coaches can have you running the football till you puke. That's totally different than you in the 200, right? So understanding that you gotta know which game it is. You gotta know, okay, this ain't track, this is football. The devil want to play football today, right? The devil trying to play 80s era bad boy style basketball. He not playing this era basketball. He tough. He'll clothesline you. You come in here bullcoining, right? But if we don't recognize how he fights and we go into it trying to do this thing another way, we're gonna get our butt kicked. Every time we get up, we need to be stacking the deck on our side, right? It's a war. How you gonna? The Bible tells you put on your full armor. You say, well, today, I don't think I need my helmet because it's hot out there. I don't want to be out there with my helmet. I'm sweating. And you leave the house without your helmet on. Or you say, I don't need my sword today because I'm just going to church. I don't need to be taking a sword to church. I don't need that at church. Ain't nobody in here. Man, the devil show up here. You better. The devil don't come to church. Right? He beat us here. Right? So, understanding all of that, right? Like, the devil, he has his tactics. He has his ways. He say, well, today, I was a little rough on him. I know he's been through some stuff. So, the devil, he can pile onto you and kick you while you're down, or he will help you get up and try to walk you through healing, and then so he can knock you back down, because if you get knocked back down this time after this, it's going to be that much harder for you to get up. And that's where he gets. So he has all of the different ways to do it, right? He's not a one-trick pony.
And we tell him how to do it. We show our hands.
Yeah. They say, I heard this when working at Boardrooms, they said, if your only tool is a hammer, you're going to think everything is a nail. And the devil, he got hammers, wrenches, he got it all. I mean, tape measures, right? Stopwatches, like he comes prepared, right? So, this is a good piece right here. Let's go to overcoming Satan's indirect attacks. Don't ever get to a place, don't ever think that the devil won't attack you. Whew. The sneeze went away. Thought I was about to get a good one. Soldier knows the enemy will attack him, and he prepares accordingly. Let's go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. 1 Thessalonians 5. Ugh. evil down at the church, I think I'm gonna stay at home. And that ain't what it's saying.
They may be the evil.
Right. It says he's clearly described as a lion looking for those unprepared. Y'all scary movies, right? Those old Jason, Friday the 13th movies where they just walking into the danger. They hear the noise and they go to the noise. This is saying if you hear the noise and it don't sound right, it probably ain't right. So you need to do what? Run. I thought I heard something over here. Your head there got chopped out. Same thing with the devil. Have we ever been curious? So in a lot of situations, a lot of times, going from uncertainty to curiosity, that's a good thing. Like you got your kid doing some stuff, kids' behaviors and stuff changing. You kind of like you become curious about it, right? You don't need to abstain from dealing with your kid if they got some changes going on. So sometimes it's really important to approach some of those things. But man, you at work and you walk up on some people and you hear them talking about somebody, that ain't the time for you to join in the conversation. That's when you play like you ain't heard nothing that was said and you go home and get your coffee and you go back to your office. You're not engaging. We're trying to navigate away from those things, right? Because we know the devil he's most effective against who? The unprepared. To the ones that don't see him coming, or the ones that we've shown him, like Sister Melina said, we've shown him a hand and he played into that hand. And we keep going right to the pulpit again and showing him our hand. And he taking what? All our money. You ain't getting no phases in phase 10 because he's showing all you got. So maintaining that self-awareness. We got to arm ourselves and train in the use of our weaponry, right? If we're not trained in the proper use, we're not only susceptible to attack, but we are weakened as a result. Going back to becoming less effective. Like that's what he wants. Like if he can get us to that place, right? Get us to that place. So never underestimate his intelligence. He ain't all knowing, but he's pretty smart. Right? You're not dealing with a stupid individual. Right? He's not out there like some of these dumb criminals, right? He is sophisticated. He is manipulative. You can't be manipulative if you ain't smart. You ain't never seen a dumb person in your life. Even dumb people don't even try to manipulate you because they don't even know, number one, what does manipulate? What does that mean? Like, but the people who are sophisticated, the people who can talk their way in a situation and talk their way out of a situation, them the people you got to keep your eyes on, right? At work, them the people you can't engage with the way they want you to engage. They'll have certain kind of conversations with you and slide to find a way to get you to say something negative about the boss but it's really what they want to say, but they somehow got you to say it, right? They create this negative vibe within the office through you. It's this manipulation it's this where they'll cause the chaos and then they'll turn around and walk away like they ain't had nothing to do with it. And they'll say, man, y'all these people crazy up there, knowing good well you the one that created all the chaos. So never underestimate. He will use that knowledge and cause us to fall. We got to recognize this and be better prepared. So great introductory lesson. I think this is laying a